You better not cut any. If you cut any
I
of this,
never cut anything out. Come on.
Yeah, I know how that works. No, I was going to ask you. Here's a topic. Have you ever had? I know we like to talk about medical stuff.
We do.
And it's funny, you know, this is when I feel like we should have a guest because we should have David Kay.
Oh boy.
On for this.
Oh boy.
Wouldn't that be good?
That would, yeah.
Dave, let's talk about
our
health.
favorite voiceover hypochondriac would be great to have on to talk about.
Yeah. So, well, we should talk about that. That just in general, maybe guests, I don't know, maybe people have an opinion on this. But I want to talk to you about, like, have you ever been injured or gone to the hospital or had a surgery? Or
been emotionally injured, just emotionally injured. I had that surgery in my vocal cords. Just now, yes. I had that surgery in my vocal cords, which was in 2006. Which put me out for 3 months. It was brutal. I wasn't even sure if I'd
long ago?
speak again. Yeah, 2006. Turns out fine. Everything was fine. But other than that, I've never got under the knife for anything more than like a skin tab removal, things like this. You know, it's all been pretty lucky.
So did they put you out for your?
Oh yeah, and they put me out, and the surgery itself is only about 25 minutes long, but because of my gargantuan neck and my muscles, you'd swear I was a rugby player. They had to get my tongue out of the way, and so they had to jam this thing down my throat to get the tongue out of the way so they could get in there. And I was in agony for 3 weeks because of that. I was on T3s. It was just brutal. The pain of that, just terrible. So, yeah.
So that's right. I've how quickly I forget. That was your story about counting down from 100 and then waking up.
No, that was the colostomy.
Oh,
yeah. So
that's it. Whoa,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't. Okay, I'm now. I forgive myself. I thought you had told me this story. So they put you out for your colonoscopy.
Yes.
And they put you out for.
Oh yes, the not the node, but the cyst. The cyst on the left vocal fold is what it was about. Yes.
Trevor's. We might have to edit that. Talking about your vocal folds.
My vocal flaps and folds.
This sounds a little dirty. Oh, Trevor.
Why are you talking about this? This is an awful topic. It's terrible. Why?
Well, I don't know, because I thought maybe there would be a vein of gold to mine, but I haven't had an actual surgery other than my wisdom teeth out when I was about 16.
Yeah, I had that too. So you've never broken a bone, nothing like that?
Never.
See, I think we're a couple of pussies. Like, we really are we've not ever experienced any strife at all in our lives. Oh. You know?
Well, you know what's funny is, like, I know you and the sport in general, and it's not like I was a jock by any means, but I played ball hockey till I fell down. I mean, like, I played lots of stuff. But I've learned this, over my many years, but it was especially our yoga instructor that went, because I started this into my 40s, I guess it was, when I first did yoga. And he said, you are, like, incredibly flexible. So I credit that for never having broken anything. It's just like I've fallen down a lot. And because of the...
Yeah.
For those of you who aren't watching, I'm doing a drinky motion with my hand. Yes. Trevor knows.
See, I don't have that kind of flexibility unless it's morally. I'm quite morally flexible, but physically not so much. It's a slightly different thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Morally flexible. That's good. I like that.
I've become a lot more... inflexible and rigid in my dotage now that I'm officially in the in the fifth decade. And it's interesting, they always said to me when I was young, "Oh, well, when you get older, you'll see, and you'll become far more conservative." And I was like, "Never, man. There's no way, man." But actually, I look around now, I'm like, actually, no, that totally happened to me. I'm not some crazy right-wing but I have become way more conservative in a lot of things, and in the sense that conservative means to conserve things that are good. I like that. Let's conserve what is
I know.
good.
Yes, I completely understand that definition, and that is what the definition should be.
Yes.
That's it. And for me, I have not. In fact, I've gotten because I think the way I was raised, just by nature of being raised in what many people consider to be a cult, religious upbringing.
The JWs, for those of you who don't know.
Yes, the Jehovah's Witnesses. There's an inherent moral conservatism just because it's a religion, right? I mean, that's just kind of goes with the territory.
Yeah.
So I guess I had more of that as a young person, and then as I sort of learned about life and the world, and there's many things out there, I've in fact become more liberal, small L.
Yeah, classically liberal, as we say.
Yeah, in many things. So
well, that makes sense when you're raised with any kind of oppressive, quote unquote, environment. I mean, hell, I was raised Roman Catholic, and it was the most lax Roman Catholicism upbringing you can imagine. But it was still there, and there was still the ominous threat of perpetual damnation if you don't go to church on Sunday and all that nonsense. But when that made me very authoritarian, anti-authority.
Yeah.
When I was very young, and I gave up the church and religious belief, when I was I think 12 or 13. But here's the thing. But
isn't it interesting that you just used the word God when you were
so I do want to clarify this though, because this is important. For all of my youth, from the time I was 13 all the way up until probably in my early 40s, I was what I would call an anti-theist. I was against religion. I thought that religion was just this ridiculous set of myths, that there was way better explanations for the origin of the universe and blah and all that stuff. And I was very much against religion. I thought religion was terrible and it caused wars and it made people ignorant. But now I have come to a point where I'm still an atheist. I still don't. Or I guess technically you'd call it agnostic, because an atheist is, I think there is no God, whereas I'm there's probably, in all likelihood, there's no God. However, I have come to appreciate the value of the institutions of religion, and I don't mean like the Catholic Church as a power. What I mean is a community where people can go and share things together that are meaningful, and also, living in Texas now, there's a church on every block. But it's mostly an opportunity for these people to talk with their neighbors and to exchange. It's kind of like the town square in the medieval time. It's where you come to exchange. Yeah. And so I'm I see the value of that. And there are certain values that are in Western religions that I find to be extremely useful for the continuation of a civilized society, which is, do good unto others and don't be so selfish and don't commit crimes and all that stuff. So I see the value in it. I'm not religious. I will never be religious, but I'm no longer anti-religious,
Yeah, that's interesting. That's very interesting. I'm not sure where I sit on that. I think I've it's a scale. Right? Does the good outweigh the bad? Does the bad outweigh the good? And those are some big questions that I have in general about religion,
especially coming from the JW. That's a very that's a different.
It's
ball
a high
game.
Control.
Yeah,
it's a high control religion, and the problem. I have a very good friend who exited about when I did, as a grown man, an adult in my 40s, and he often refers to the whole thing as a house of cards, and it is like I totally agree with your assessment of community and like having a sense of belonging and all the good stuff, but when I do this with everything, I take it to where did it come from, why are we doing it, and you pull out one of those cards in the house of cards, and it all falls apart.
Let me ask you
so
this.
if there was something,
No, finish your thought. Go ahead.
well, if there was something that wasn't based in some theology where we could have the town square and the community and everything, I'd be all in. I think I agree with all of that stuff.
Well, we sort of have that now because politics has become the new religion, which is terrible. That's a terrible, terrible state for us to be in. They were separated for a reason,
Yeah, exactly.
But I want to ask you a question. As a Jehovah's Witness, what was the stigma about working in the entertainment industry? Was there ever any issue about you doing what you did professionally as, ooh, this is bad, or whatever the case is?
Oh, goodness. Yeah. I was constantly battling for survival because, the good thing about what we do is it's essentially anonymous.
Yes.
I mean, people really have to be paying attention to go, hey, that's Trevor.
Right.
I mean, you and I do that,
Right.
but, most people,
Yeah.
which brings up a whole nother topic in commercials. Like, yeah, let's get John Cusack to do the BMW spots. Why?
Right.
No one except the ad agency is going, oh, I hung out with
Yeah.
John today. It was great.
Yeah,
Anyway.
the only people who know that it's him are the ad agency and all the other actors who auditioned for the role going, another fucking celebrity, great.
Exactly. So anyway, so I thought, there was a nice little insulation there and, I could just go about my business and but what happened for me was I was very, very cautious about the projects that I would do. Early on, the beginning of my career was commercials and lots of radio commercials. And starting about August, and this is a different world, man. Like, I mean, working in commercials in Vancouver was fantastic in the, late mid 80s. Because it was a very small core group of people that were doing it. And it was really like, I mean, literally you'd get a phone call and go, hey, what are you doing Friday? Show up at 11, I would like auditioning. What? And that was my in because I did decent enough demo tapes and just bombarded these companies. So I was in the mix. So I'd get a phone call. And the reason I tell you that part of the story is because in today's world, you get an audition, you know what the commercial is. You see what it is.
Right.
And when you would get this phone call, like, hey, we're doing a thing, show up at 11, I would start asking like casual leading questions. And the point was, I'll get to the point right now. I was trying to figure out if it was like a Christmas commercial because we don't celebrate Christmas.
Of course.
And I thought, I just don't want to be doing any ho, 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 or especially saying Merry Christmas or anything that would get me, strung up. My personal feeling was I didn't care.
Right.
I'm an actor.
Right.
I mean, actors act, which that's a whole nother
That is a whole other topic, which we will cover.
Oh, yeah, we'll cover. So I would start asking these questions to try to, and once in a while something would, like I'd catch it and then I go, I'm not going to do that one. Or I'd come up with some excuse for not, this is the way I basically led my whole childhood too, because my parents were small L liberal Jehovah's Witnesses in that my dad had a business that was front facing with customers and you couldn't be a religious nut and survive.
Stay in business.
Like it just doesn't work. So they understood, you go to school, please don't be a zealot because it's tough enough being a kid in school. So, but still you got to believe this stuff. And So that's kind of how that was my MO for my life, is like I'm going to be a moderate.
Right.
So so I would gracefully bow out of such holiday style commercials. This one time, it's not anywhere near the holidays. It's like I get a call and, hey, we want you to do this commercial for the Keg Steakhouse in Canada, for those of you who might not know what the Keg is. And I thought, yeah, I'll be there. Why would I ask any questions? It's a restaurant. It's nowhere near any holidays. So I go there. And it's like the Keg is celebrating its ex-birthday. And I did it. Didn't even think about it. I did think about it a little bit, because Jehovah's Witnesses don't celebrate birthdays.
Oh, my God. What's left?
Nothing. It's no fun. It's definitely no fun.
No wonder you got out. Jesus.
So I go and do it, and then sure enough, it's on the air in a minute, and I get this, Ian, it's brother so-and-so. We'd like to have a talk with you. Because I was getting to be known. People listened to the radio a lot back then.
Right.
And it was local.
Right.
And, oh, that's him. And you said happy birthday.
Oh, my God.
At the end, I said, it's a restaurant. It's a restaurant. First of all, restaurants don't have birthdays. I didn't want to go to the ad agency and go, technically it's an anniversary, if anything.
The restaurant is not actually ever birthed, so you are technically incorrect, I'm afraid.
Yeah. So try and argue that with a brother, elder, who wants to make your life miserable.
Yeah.
So that's a very long answer to your question.
Was
it difficult or resistance? And then moving forward, there was other things. When you're in an animated show and you're in the midst of a bunch of stuff, like, people weren't really paying that close of attention. There was nothing online. It was like you'd have to go. Oh, there was one guy that just had it out for me, and he went and found some Halloween special, Casper's Halloween special or something.
Uh-oh.
I don't even think I was in it. I wasn't even sure I was in it, to be honest with you, but I was credited. And it was one of those things I probably went in and did some
background
auxiliary. Yeah, like I wasn't Casper, for goodness sakes. Yeah. But there's a double whammy. He's a ghost.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like demonic.
Yeah. And he's friendly.
And he's friendly, and it's Halloween.
Oh my God!
Or Christmas, or whatever it was. Anyway, it was all bad. So right around the time I had my wife and I had our children.
An important distinction these days, because you know.
I know. Well, I mean, credit where credit is due. For goodness sakes, that's a lot of work to get those things out of there. Anyway.
Just as a brief aside, did she have a regular birth or did she have a C-section? Regular birth.
Yep.
So
regular birth.
That tiny little broomstick wife of yours brought forth through the hip canal.
Yes.
and
amazing.
And she is still. That's amazing to me.
That's and that's a story for another time, for another episode. The even though I sort of started with medical stuff, another time, but. Speaking of C-section, it was looming. I'll just leave it there.
Right.
That's a cliffhanger.
Oh, okay. Tune in next time.
But anyway, by the time the kids were coming, I was getting really quite weary of all the gymnastics that I was having to go through to be in the career that I'm in.
Right.
And by the time the second child came along, I thought, okay, now we got two. Chances are 50-50 one of them's going to be hooked up a little like me and want to do something like what I do for work. And I don't know if I want to put them through this.
Right.
On the religious side of things.
Right.
Because it is, to grow up and have any sense of normalcy and still be in a religion like that, it's
and show business is hard enough without also having this religious cult hounding you every time you want to do something.
Exactly. Exactly. So that was the beginning of the soft. What's the? Is it an Irish exit?
The
Is that
Irish exit, that's right. Yeah, the Irish goodbye, as they say. Just,
Yeah, the Irish goodbye.
I'm not going to actually tell
was
anybody I'm leaving. I'm just going to slip out the door unnoticed, you know. I hate that. I hate it!
so that's basically that was the beginning, and there's much more detail, but enough about me.
Yeah, but enough about me. Let's talk more about me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never had the whole religious thing. I mean, like I said, my mother was Catholic, my dad was nothing. You know, he was the guy that would, I guess, go to church on Christmas Eve because that's what you did, but he didn't. He had no. My mother, I tried to talk her out of her religious belief in the arrogance of my 16-year-oldness, when at one point I actually disproved the existence of God to her, and I wish I could remember how I did that, because that would rock the boat a little, but I don't. So it was a bit of a struggle, but honestly, she never really slammed that religious thing down on me. She just used it to, typical Irish Catholic mother, right? Just use it to guilt you. Just use it to guilt you out. Yep. Which is fairly typical. But I never had to fight against it. I was never repressed by it. And you know, I have to say, I was the youngest of 5 kids, so my mom was always very supportive of my choices, no matter what I did. If I wanted to go, like a lot of actors, they're sort of rebelling against that because they have parents that say, well, you should get a real job or you should get a degree first. My mom, never. She was like, you follow your dreams, you do whatever you want. Don't ever let them tell you no. Don't ever let them tell you can't do it. Because I think that she had repressed a lot of her own desires as a young woman in the 40s and 50s. You know, I think she wanted to join the Air Force at one point, but instead she got married and had kids and stuff. Yeah, so there was a whole backstory there that colored the way she raised us. But, I mean, the benefit that I had from that was that she was always supportive. The day I decided to leave Edmonton to go to Vancouver, you know, honestly, I was the only one that was surprised when I made that choice, which was an interesting thing because for me, it was a big deal. It was leaving home, leaving the only home I'd ever known. I was 25 years old, had no money, not a pot to piss in, as my father would say. But I was going to go. By God, I was going to go and give it the old college try and see what's what. And
what year was that?
That was 1998, September the 15th, 1998.
Wow.
Yeah, I got in my little Nissan blue pickup truck with my guitar in my suitcase and my pack of DeMoria Light regular and a bottle of rum stuck in the back and drove out to Vancouver. And well, here we are 23 years or 25 years later. 25 years now it's going to be this year since I left home. That's crazy. But did you have friends in Vancouver that you moved to? Or? I knew one girl and her boyfriend. Yeah.
Wow,
so
that's brave.
Yeah, I knew nothing, had nothing. I stayed with them on their couch for the first 2 weeks until finally the boyfriend said, okay, it's time to go. I was like, oh. And then it was crunch time. It was like, well, do I go home? I can't go home with my tail tucked between my legs. No. I just got here. So I got an apartment in Burnaby, in North Burnaby, for $300 a month. A basement suite. Can you imagine rent in Vancouver for $300 a month? Like, it was a total hole. It was a disaster. But what a character builder that was, I can tell you.
Yeah, I bet. Were you in the Italian part of North Burnaby or the Portuguese part of North Burnaby?
I was in the trailer trash part of North Burnaby because there was a woman who lived above me in this house, this big rental house. Her name was Noni, and Noni would sit outside on her porch smoking with her curlers in her hair, like something right out of some, you know, suburban nightmare. And and she would have these people over on the weekends, these guys that would drive like vans with heavy metal art on the side, and they would pull up on the lawn. Like, this is the level we're talking about. And the basement,
North Burnaby, man.
Yeah. The basement suite I lived in was covered in cobwebs to get through, and it was just smelled of must and mold, and it was just a disaster. But the worst part, oh my God. And this is like the first month I'm in Vancouver. I'm living in this basement suite. And Noni would have these parties where these young headbangers would come over every Friday night and they'd get all drunk. And invariably at around 4, 5, 6 in the morning, I would start to hear her screaming at them. And I could never hear what they're saying because they would always just mumble, but she would always be saying things like, fuck you! fucking suck. Shut up. And then you'd hear the, don't you fucking talk to me that way. Shut up. And all kinds of other interesting things they would say, which I won't repeat for the sake of this podcast.
Sure.
I would lie in bed having fantasies about just wait till they all pass out because it's coming. And then they leave the doors open to the upstairs. So take the butcher knife, creep up, and just murder them all in their sleep, because then they'll be quiet. Oh, they'll be quiet.
Yeah. And how long did you live there?
3 months. Yeah, 3 long, loud months. And then I moved to a place right on Canby Street across from the big liquor store on 41st. And that was another kind of disastrous place. But I mean, I knew when I moved that I had to go all in. It's funny, I was talking about this in a podcast yesterday that I was doing with a friend of mine. And we were talking about the plan, like, okay, well, you got to have a plan B, you got to have a backup plan. And I never, ever, ever followed that. And I never taught, because I used to do a lot of teaching at the various places around town. And I would never teach my students that. I would always say, if you have a plan B, if you have a fallback position, you'll take it.
Yep.
You can't
I agree with that.
You have to go balls out, straight ahead, and you have to dedicate yourself. And that's a terrifying prospect to a lot of people for many, many reasons. But the fact is, if you want to achieve anything, you have to make yourself vulnerable, and you have to dive into the lion's jaws. Like, there's no other way around it. And I would see a lot of these young students that wanted to do voiceover, and you could tell that they were too scared because, well, who knows, for many reasons. But it would always, you could see the fear on their face when I would lay that basic reality down to them. That, look, the fact is, if you want to do this because you think it's fun and it's sort of an interesting way to maybe, learn some techniques that might help you in other aspects of your performance and stuff, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But if you are here to learn how to do what I do for a living, and I'm going to assume that you are, because that's how I teach, then you need to know you have to be the best in the world. That's just the way it is. Now, I can show you, I would tell them, I can show you techniques and I can show you tools that you can use to hone what you hopefully already have. But the fact is, if you want to do this for real, then you have to commit to it. And obviously very few ever did, because it's hard. It's crazy hard,
Well, there's an interesting topic that we'll get onto, teaching and coaching and stuff. So back in the old days, the early days of voiceover, people didn't know what voiceover was.
Right.
Like, literally, the general public didn't. You had to explain it. Like when you're watching the TV and voice comes on that you don't see, that's a voiceover.
I had to have that explained to me. When I met Vancouver, I didn't know there was a career. A friend of mine said, you should do voice work. I said, what? He said, like the cartoons and stuff. And I went, oh, yeah, those are actors, aren't they? Like, it didn't even occur to me.
Well, by the time you would have been coming to Vancouver, I mean, there was an industry in cartoons. Yeah. So, like, going back to well, actually, no, not going back to those days. That's just my history was I heard a troupe, basically, of regular voices that were used in commercials. And, that's the weatherman. That's the morning DJ guy.
Yeah.
And that's the guy from Dr. Bundolo. Do you remember Dr. Bundolo?
No.
Oh, I'm so old.
Was this a BC thing? Because
it was basically like an SCTV kind of thing where they did live shows, they did audio. It was all in that National Lampoon era, right? Like when that stuff was happening, and it was good. It was very good. Anyway, it was like, so some of the guys I recognized from that, and I remember being in. Our family trip was California. Like that's where we would go, and you'd turn on the radio as you're driving down to California, and I remember this light bulb moment going, hang on. Those are the guys from Vancouver, and I'm hearing them in America.
Right.
Whoa, what's that all about?
Right.
And then I came to, later in life, I realized, there's an actual industry for commercials coming out of Vancouver, which we can thank one company for that.
Was that
GGRP.
GGRP, right.
And they, from them spawned the other production companies who would, do a lot of it was jingle work, like music work.
Right.
And then they kind of transitioned into like, hey, we're kind of funny guys, and we can take your commercial project and make it even funnier.
Right.
Anyway, that's the beginnings of the industry for me, where people didn't even know what the heck it was. Like, it just wasn't, I'm going to get into voiceover. Like today, you go online and type in VO or voice actor, and it's like, so when you were talking to students, the internet was already happening. It was a well-known occupation.
Yeah.
And when that happens, everyone wants to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them, because it's a really freaking good job, right? Like, it's the best.
Good gig if you can get it.
It's a good gig if you can get it. So I haven't done the amount of teaching and stuff that you have, but this is actually when I started talking, whatever that was. Let me check the timeline. A few minutes ago, this is what I wanted to get to. I want to ask you, when you're sitting there with a group of keen students who want to learn for whatever reasons they want to learn, and you recognize that there's a very small percentage of people who just get it.
Vanishingly
and
small.
You go, yeah, exactly. And then there's people who you go, you could probably learn to get better. And then there's a whole bunch of people that you just go, why are you doing it? And there is, I'm not going to say it's an American thing. It's a Western thing that has come into our world attitude for, I'd say, probably the last 30 years, where you can do it. If you just follow your passion, you can do it.
Yeah.
So, which I agree with, but there's a line as well where the blunt me wants to go, I don't give a shit what your passion is. If, like, I might be passionate about race car driving. Actually, that's not a good example, because I think I'd be really good. So I might be passionate about oil painting, and I work at it, and I'm expressing myself, but it really is just awful.
Or not saleable. It's not up to a commercial
Not
standard.
saleable. Yeah. You know what? Yeah. Okay. Maybe that's a better. Thank you.
Yes.
Because if it's your heart and your soul, maybe it doesn't matter if it's awful.
Right.
And if you don't care, if you're a true artist, you don't care about selling anything.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm giving myself outs already. But this thing where, like, everyone gets a ribbon.
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you do? Like,
I never gave any truck to that, and that was something I always did in my first class with these students, and that's whether they were adults or kids. It didn't matter. I would break them of that immediately, and I would say to them,
like a wild Mustang.
I had this acronym, ACTT, and they were the 4 pillars of how you build a career in this business. The first 2 you have total control over. The second 2 you don't have any control over. The A is attitude. You have to be somebody we want to work with. That's probably more important than anything else. If you've got the wrong attitude, you're dead in the water already.
And you were successful somehow.
Somehow, yes. Well, I mean, I don't actually believe the shit I teach. This is just nonsense because I think it. So the second one, the C, is consistency. You be consistent in your characterization, consistent in your auditions, consistently on time, all of that stuff. It's professionalism, right? That's huge. So then there's the two T's, and you have no control over that. The first one is timing. Timing. It's all about timing, baby. You got to be in the right place, the right time, with the right role, the right producers. That's the story of my career. That's how I got my first job. All of those things converged. The stars aligned, and there it was. I had zero control over that. And of course, the fourth pillar, the key one, is talent. And I maintained with these students that either you're born with the talent or you're not. If you are, I can show you how to hone it, sharpen it, turn it into something else. If you're not, there's nothing I can do for you. And I was just blunt with that. And you could see little faces fall. And I would say, now that said, maybe some of you have never done this before at all. So how can you know until you try? So I'm glad you're here.
That's fair enough.
Right. Let's give it a shot and see
enough.
what's what. But to their credit, the vast majority of those students would always say to me, at the end, they would say, give it to me straight. Give it to me straight, Doc. Have I got the talent or not? And I would have to tell them, no, of course not. Look at you. You're terrible. No, I wouldn't actually say that, but
no,
but
no, I know.
So
I know.
I don't follow the everybody gets a ribbon philosophy at all in any aspect of our society. I think it's garbage. It's a garbage philosophy that creates weaklings and creates
I agree.
Emotionally disabled people that go on to lead emotionally disabling lives for themselves and for those around them. But I was going to say something about the whole, and it's gone. It's gone. Whatever. Oh, yeah,
Talent,
that was it.
luck.
That was it. So there was an interview with James Gunn, who I think it was a little featurette after the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I can't remember where I saw it. But I remember, and James Gunn, by the way, is no fan of mine. He hates my guts personally, by the way. So remind me to tell you of that. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Put a pin in that.
Yeah, put a pin in that.
Episode 6.
And it's nothing I did. It's just anyway, whatever. We'll come back. But I was watching this featurette with James Gunn, and basically somebody said to him, so what would you say to these actors that really want to, go out and follow their passion and that whole thing? And he said, I would say to them, don't. He said, don't follow your passion. Hollywood's filled with people who are incompetent, who are following their passion. Why don't you follow your skill set? Do something that you're good at, and you can actually contribute something to the society and to the business. And I was like, bravo, sir. Finally, somebody tells it like it is. And it's a hard, bitter pill to swallow for people who've been coddled their entire lives, being told that they're special and can achieve whatever they want. Because you can't. You can't. You can try anything, but at some point you have to sit back and go, it's like drawing. I cannot draw to save my life. I have tried multiple times. I've taken courses. I've looked at YouTube videos. I've had personal people. I just don't get it. I will never get it. So as passionate as I might be about wanting to express myself in that visual medium, zero chance. Bubkas, there's not a chance in hell. And I just have to accept that, right?
Yeah. And then there's the sad reality of the other less honest teachers, coaches, who go, just keep coming.
You know what? When I first got to
coming.
Vancouver, I saw in the trades, in the old trades, in the papers, there was these advertisements for these courses, and they would all be things like, you too can be a voiceover professional celebrity and come. And then I would see the same thing in LA. And that shit turned my stomach because I thought, you're just lying to people and you're just brazenly taking their money. You're taking advantage of, and especially in LA, man, because that's the city where everybody with a dream goes off the bus from Iowa, and they're immediately, we used to make the joke that Hollywood and Highland, right, that intersection was it's where the buses dropped off the farm kids who were in a play once and told that they could make it, that was like chum in the water by all of the people waiting for them to show up so they could take advantage of them and take all their money from these courses. Take my course and I guarantee you results. Results are guaranteed. It was just, it made me sick.
Yeah, I know. I feel exactly the same way. And it is sad when there are people out there who happily take their money. And And if we were to talk to some of those people, I'm sure they would have a rationalization,
Of course.
and a plausible, because this is part of my problem. As I've gotten older, and back to sort of topic 1.2, in terms of like where you sit in your mindset, are you sort of a little more rigid, or are you a little more like I go open to a fault where I go, well, I can see that. I don't have to agree with it, but
Right.
I like when someone gives me a rationale, I can kind of go, good for you.
I can
Good
see
for
why
you.
you think that way. I can see why you believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can see why you have to
Right.
come. Well, no, you see, for me, I would have to
Right.
come up with a really good reason why I'm still taking these people's money.
Yeah.
Like it would have to be a really solid rationale. I think there are many people who don't have that need and just go, someone's going to take their money.
Right. Yes.
Might as well be me.
Yep. A
So-
sucker and his money is soon parted. It might as well be me. Ugh.
Yeah, and it is a shame, and that exists in many fields, not just acting, but especially intangible fields.
Right.
Anything that is artistic,
Right.
anything that is feely, touchy,
Where there's no
there's
objective standard of success or quality.
Well, which brings me to another topic, which is a topic for another time because I actually have to get to work on it. For those of you, Ken, our listener, may not realize that I've spent a certain portion of my career typing words and writing things. And I've kind of I did a couple of books, I did a whole series and that kind of stuff. I've not written a feature yet, and I have one that's percolating. I'm in the outline stage, but speaking of Hollywood, I'm working on a script. Yeah, okay. Anyway, I feel like I've got some credibility because I have written stuff. Anyway, and it is on this very topic of because of my background and because I'm obsessed with multi-level marketing, cults, religion, and the melding of all of them. I'm right. The screenplay, the core of the screenplay is about a life coaching company, and because life coaches are the ultimate non-qualified. You don't need anything.
Yeah.
There's these places that have come up with certifications.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's that whole industry of fulfilling a need that people have because their lives have no meaning. It's just a very sad comment on our society that's where we were so desperate to find meaning or to reach out for help. And again, to come back to the religion thing, at the very least, that's what
right on topic.
Right, that's what these religious communities actually help provide is a sense of structure and not only a place where you can go to talk and to work things out, but they also give you a shared set of values and they give you a shared set of things that ambitions and goals that all make sense and are typically speaking very quote unquote good for the society in terms of they're stabilizing and they keep things less anarchistic than it might otherwise be in the jungle of the deranged that is the human mind,
There's and with everything, there's always a guy who fucks it up.
Yeah.
And multiple. I mean, there's not one guy. And I've had this visceral objection to organizations or clubs. Like, here's a great example. And I don't know whether it's my upbringing or that I'm just like simply against any kind of order where there's a board or someone deciding things. Mm-hmm. This is what we're going to do. We're all going to wear green. And, I don't think so. So this is what should be an innocuous example. As you know, I'm into cars and specifically Porsches. And this is in my era where I was, I had some new ones. I had just bought this car and I was looking for any opportunity to get it on a track. I was one of those Porsche owners. So I would go to the larger tracks out in Mission and in Seattle and in Portland. I love those, like long actual racetracks. And this opportunity was called a motocross. Motocross? No, that's bikes.
That's bikes, yeah.
Anyway, it was through pylons in a giant parking lot up in Whistler. And you had to join the Porsche Club of America to participate. So I'll join. So I join, I go up there, pull up, and immediately my anti-joiner radar is just going, because there's that group over there and there's that group over there and these guys are really into it and they've got their gauges out and they're checking, they're putting on special tires for this course, and guys are talking about, after the 82, I've never bought another 911 after that. They were crap after that. And you go, no, you don't know anything, sir. They've always been better, and they will continue to always be better. You may have your favorite, but please don't tell me the cars were crap after a certain year. Anyway, and stuff like that, right? And they're just, here's my, and this other guy who was saying, yeah, what I like to do is I like to put on AC/DC and before I do my lap. You're going through pylons. It's all like precision stuff. There's no high speed. You're not on a highway.
Yeah, it's handling.
And I heard that out of the corner of my ear and I went, well, that doesn't make any sense. I've never heard Ayrton Senna or Michael Schumacher go, what's the best thing is when I'm on the F1 track, I want to be as distracted as possible by my favorite tunes. So I'm just like, I'm doing a Devall, like, and okay. So I go out there and I play second best of the day. And I didn't have a tire gauge or anything. I just say, I think I got this. And they come up to me and go, where are you? Where did you come from? I'm just from Vancouver. I just wanted to come. I never went to another event ever again.
Yeah.
Ever. I couldn't stand not only the club, but the little factions within the club that I could see. So I'm just not a joiner. And although I think I mentioned we started pickleball.
Oh, wow. Well, that's like the ultimate local politics right there. My God.
Introductory. And so far, I highly recommend it.
Yes, it's all the rage. It's all the rage.
You're not going to get injured.
Yes,
I doubt it. Well, unless you stepped on the pickleball. If you stepped on the ball and twisted, maybe.
Yeah. In the apartment that I lived in Vancouver downtown, there was not an HOA. There was a strata council.
Strata. Oh, I know where you're going with this. Continue.
And when I moved in, I had my gardeners, because I hired this team, these two wonderful gay men that were just excellent gardeners. They were fantastic. And they said, oh, honey, we can make your deck just look like whatever you want, like an oasis out here. Because, it was a third level thing and it looked out on the street.
Yeah.
It was great. So I said, yeah, let's do it. So they put in these beautiful fountains and planters with all these great, because I wanted kind of like a vegetative barrier around to give a little privacy, right? So,
of course.
I talked to both my neighbors. Jonathan was the name of the Chinese gentleman. I was trying to remember that one of the previous episodes. But I remember I talked to him and I said, excuse me, Jonathan, you don't mind if I put up like plants here? He said, oh, no, plants will be very nice to have. No, of course, you go put up plants. Yeah. I will put up plants too.
He's your neighbor.
Yeah, he's my neighbor. And then I talked to people on the other side. They were like, yeah, of course, no problem. It's all great. So what happens is I put up these plants, but on either side, in order to give the plant somewhere to grow against, we put up these bamboo screens, okay?
Oh,
now,
Trevor.
I get this letter.
How dare you?
How dare you? I get this letter from the Strata Council saying you are in violation of this code, subsection 102.b, whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to put up any screens that are visible from the street. So I wrote them back and I said, I know what this law is about, or this rule is about. You don't want people hanging their underwear or Confederate flags over the edge of their balconies. I get it. That's not what this is. These are bamboo screens that are behind the and you can't even see them from the screen. And I get a letter back. We can see them from the street and they must be taken down or you will be fined in violation. So this kept going on. And finally, I had enough. So my girlfriend at the time was a photographer. And I said, come with me. So we went down to the street. And I said, turn your camera up from all possible angles and take pictures. So she did. And then we get the pictures back. And lo and behold, you can't see any screens from the street, which is the whole point of the bylaw, right? Anything that's visible from the street is law. So I go to the next meeting. I go to the meeting and I come in and I've got my laptop and I say, I would like to put this up on a projection, please. And they were like, okay. And there was this one woman, Rita Wong or Sue, or she was a Chinese woman. And she was that woman who was just like, she loved the petty authority that being
Karen.
on a council gives you. Yeah, exactly what you call a Karen. So I said to her, so I've got this letter here, and I presume that was you? She said, oh, yes, that was, we can see the screen from the street. And I said, okay. Well, as it turns out, I have some pictures from the street, and I put them up. And I said, can you show me in the picture where you see the screen on my property? Oh, she says, it's right there. I said, could you point? Can you show me exactly where it is? And she says, oh, it's right there. And she's pointing to nothing. And I turned to the Strata Council, and I said, ladies and gentlemen,
of the jury.
If your treasurer is seeing screens that aren't there, I suggest that you have much bigger problems than whether or not I have plants on my balcony.
Ooh, that's aggressive. Mm-hmm. That was so aggressive, Trevor.
The president came by my place and he was trying to be all nice guy. And I said to him, listen, Rick, or whatever the hell his name was, I said, I'm a young, single, successful guy with nothing but time and money, and I'm very territorial. And if you press this on me, I swear to God, I will tie this entire Strata Council up in legal battles because I have nothing but money and vitriol for this. So that's your choice, Rick. And of course, that was it.
Yeah.
They let it go, and I kept my screens. But I was like, no. Nobody tells me what to do when it's based on a rule that makes no sense. There's no sense here.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of rules. There's a whole lot of life that doesn't make a lot of sense, unfortunately.
It drives me crazy.
You can start pulling on that thread, and it's trouble. Speaking of strata councils, the first place we bought, which was in 86. Wow. Once again, I'm really old. And you go to the Strata Council meeting because, this is what you should do. I'm an owner. And for those of you in America, it's like an HOA. And I went and participated, and I went, I get this. I understand this. I see how this works. And, never being one to sit back and not have an opinion, something would come up and put your hand up and you speak and da-da-da. And then we were on another one. And then eventually people start going, hey, you should be on the council.
Oh, yeah.
And then I did my time. And similarly, I did this with our union, UBCP, back in Canada, in BC, where I did my time. But I realized I should have realized it after the Strata Council because it's a microcosm of government. It's the same system.
Yeah.
I don't have the constitution for that. Like I'm just not. I go if something doesn't make sense and someone else thinks it makes sense or does what your Karen did, where it doesn't matter if it makes sense. I'm just digging in.
This is the authority,
wait a minute.
and it's my way, and that's the rules, and that's the end of it. No.
Yeah, and how did the rule get there?
Yeah,
like that. That's where I want to start. Again, sort of back to religion and where things come from and all of that. Like, please tell me how we got here.
Yeah,
and if that rule about the screens, how did that? Oh, well. You get the point of it. The point is X, Y, Z, and if it doesn't apply to in Trevor's case, like, stop.
Yeah,
just stop.
Right, but they can't possibly They can't possibly reason that out, because at that point it's no longer about the facts. It's no longer about the origin of the
Then
rule
it's
or what
then
its
it's territorial.
intention is. It becomes territorial. Like I tried the reasonable route with them. I said, okay, I understand what this rule is, but clearly I'm not violating the spirit of it because I'm just putting plant matter up there, and you can't even see it. So I'm not sure what the issue is, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter that I was arguing from a point of reason. No. It's about we are the authority and you are the lonely owner who obeys. And I'm just like, no.
Well, I think it's safe to say that no one is going to see a Trevor Devall or an Ian James Corlett political sign on anyone's lawn. Running for city council, T. Devall and I.J. Corlett. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I would have to run for like supreme dictator of the city or something. When I'm not sure if that's a legitimate.
Some have tried. Some have tried. It reminds me of a great British show. On another episode, we spoke of our heritage in British TV, and this one is pretty obscure, so I don't expect you to know it, but. It was called the Alexi Sale Show.
Oh, of course, Alexi.
You
Sale.
do know it,
of course.
Okay. Oh, good. So he was great. Like he was one of those guys. Part of his show would be incredible monologues that, as a very young man, I had no time for.
Yeah.
Like when my family, well, actually, in fact, it was just my dad, my brother, and I would watch Benny Hill. I thoroughly enjoyed Benny Hill. And then when he would go into his, there once was a man from da-da-da, and he would do those things, I'd kind of go, I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't get it. But as I got older, I really started to enjoy that because you're listening to the actual words. Anyway, so Alexi Sale had this thing. And he
did the "Didn't You Kill My Brother" song. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. One of my favorite music videos of all time. Look it up, folks. We'll put it in the notes.
Didn't you kill
my brother?
Didn't you kill my brother?
Didn't you kill my brother?
I saw you.
You're the best friend I've ever had. You're my best friend.
Hey, didn't you kill my brother?
Yeah. So he was finishing off one of his incredible speeches with his big round head, straight into the camera. He goes, well, you know what they say? You can't fight City Hall, but you can shit on the steps and run like hell. So that's kind of...
Yeah. And I can think of no better sentiment than to end this episode than with, you can't fight City Hall, but you can shit on the steps and run like hell. Thanks, Ken.
Thanks. You.
That was. Thanks for listening, Ken. Perhaps your wife or your cousin would like to listen too. That would put us up to maybe 3 listeners. That would be good. Yeah. But that's it for today. I'm Trevor.
I'm Ian.
And goodbye.
Bye.